I'm Will,
I'm
and I
Will,
love wrestling.
and I love wrestling.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to another edition of Wrestling with Weekends. I am William R. Washington. Good morning, everybody. And I'm still getting used to this whole morning thing because, as I've mentioned on the last two episodes, RBR has been a thing that I do at night, 10 p.m. Eastern, 7 p.m. Pacific, if you don't listen to the core RBR. But again, I've been trying to do something a little bit different. And I love this because it gets me up and gets me out and ready for my day, because by the time this show's done, here in Mountain Time Zone, it's still 10 a.m. and I still have the rest of my day to do whatever I want with. And so that's this edition of Wrestling with Weekends. I'm William R. Washington, and I'm not alone here because I'm also joined by Miss Maddy Anderson.
Hi. Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
I appreciate you. I appreciate you doing this because I love your stuff and I love your enthusiasm and I love your creativity around what you do and the way you talk wrestling. And so I've been wanting to do this for a while, as far as you are concerned. And hey, guys, because I noticed there's people kind of scattered about, and I love this. So if you happen to be listening on Mixlr, which is normally where we do the audio version, that's still there, and that's not going anywhere. However, if you'd like a video edition, my YouTube channel, Wrestling with Will, we're actually doing video here. So I'm here. I've got crusties in my eyes from just having gotten up. Don't care about none of that. We're just here, and we're going to talk about the week in wrestling on television. And so I guess for the RBR neighborhood who doesn't know Maddy Anderson, and of course, we've been talking for the last 30 minutes, so it's kind of tough to like go back into like reintroduction mode. But as far as the people out there who don't know you, please, the floor is yours.
Oh, well, if you don't already, I'm on Instagram and Twitter. You can follow me at Top Rope Squishy. I do have my own YouTube show, Top Rope Squishy. I drop content Monday, Tuesdays, and I'm live on Thursdays at 7:15 p.m. Eastern. Positive, funny content. So if you like that kind of stuff, make sure you tune in.
Yes. And Nick DG in the chat is asking, is it streaming on Will's YouTube channel or RBR's YouTube channel, or is it the same thing? It's on my YouTube channel. And that's Wrestling with Will. That's just youtube.com/wrestling with Will. So if you would like to see my crusty face and the needs a haircut, although I'll be there shortly because next week is All Out in Chicago, and I will be there. I'm still 50-50 on bringing my kids. I'm not gonna lie, like my kids can't get vaccinated, and I'm still just on the fence about it. Now, granted, their plane tickets are purchased, their tickets are purchased, so I'm mostly leaning toward just take them and do not let them take off their masks anywhere. But so if you are in the Chicago area, and I was planning on meeting up with a lot of folks from Twitter, but just know that I'm going to have a 10-year-old and a 7-year-old with me. So that'll be how that goes. Carrie in the chat say, take your kids. Your wife needs her girls weekend. And and that's the thing is, I would feel bad suddenly going, that actually, that weekend you were planning on getting while I was in Chicago. Sorry. But and are your kids back in school, Will? Yes, they are. So that's another thing is, I don't know. They are like fully in school. I don't know. I'm gonna take them, especially with the rumor of what is happening at All Out suddenly hitting. I'm suddenly like, how do I deny them this?
You have to take them. Just make sure they keep their masks on for sure.
Yeah. So that's where I'm at. And hey, if you got any thoughts on the week that is pro wrestling, give us a call, 909-581-4RBR. That's 909-581-4727. And join in on all discussion. I'm happy to take any calls. You got any thoughts on Rampage last night? You got any thoughts on SmackDown? You got any thoughts on Dynamite? And I know that show had I won't even say a mixed reaction, but I have theories on what led to such the negative reaction depending on where you look. And so I feel like that's honestly where we can start is with, so I don't know. I feel like
Malachi Black. Is that where you're going?
Yeah, well, so there was some interesting news that came with this episode of Dynamite. Because I think the first thing kind of everybody had to say about Dynamite as it was leading up to it, the question was, what's up with the card? That this doesn't seem like the kind of card that you would put on in a post CM Punk world. And then the news came out. I don't know if you saw this yesterday, but in yesterday's Observer, apparently there were two people who were scheduled to be on this show, and they didn't say who, but there were two people who were scheduled to be on this show in a match with each other that never got announced that were positive for COVID. And so that's where the QT Marshall match came from, was all of a sudden there's two people on this show who obviously couldn't be here. They didn't say who, but I've been like going down mentally of like, who has been involved enough in storylines to be missing from this show? And I still can't figure that out. Like, I know 2.0 had something else come up, so I know it wasn't them, but I don't even want to like
I don't want to speculate either, but now I'm like,
yeah, but so I guess that kind of put the card in a little bit of disarray. But either way, the show took place in Milwaukee, and a little bit of geography news, I suppose. Oh, and so in the chat, let's see. So the thing is, what was said as far as the Observer was concerned, was that it was two vaccinated people who are currently asymptomatic. They just tested positive. They said that it's not even like a case of like somebody being unvaccinated. It was just two people who just tested positive, and they're like, just for the sake of safety, it was they pulled them off the show. But Meltzer says that they're asymptomatic, whoever it was. So that.
Jesus. I'm gonna be Googling after this. Go try to see who it was.
But yeah, so this took place in Milwaukee, and I guess I got a little bit of a geography lesson because I didn't know prior to this week how close Milwaukee is to Chicago, but now we do. Because I'm like, because there was all this talk about AEW is really exhausting the Chicagoland area with Rampage, The First Dance, and then AEW in Milwaukee, or Dynamite in Milwaukee, and then the 3 shows next week. And they were like, that's 5 shows in the Chicago area. And I was like, what? One of them's in Milwaukee. And then I looked it up and I'm like, oh, those are only an hour outside of each other. And I think I told the story on RBR. But the interesting thing to me is that you could see, obviously, that especially like front row people, it was a lot of the same guys who were at the first dance. But otherwise, it was just intriguing to see them in a new environment. And because I think only Houston and Milwaukee so far are the only markets that they've run for the first time in this tour. Since they've been back on the road, most of the cities they've run have been cities that they had run before. The Milwaukee and Houston were both first-time markets. Houston surprised the hell out of me. Houston was like, They were just, what was that?
It was great for Sammy Guevara, because that's where he's
Yeah.
from.
Yeah, and so it was great for Sammy, and then it was also great for I mean, Jericho had that entrance. And what's funny is people were talking about that for all of like a day, which I thought like at the time that was like the coolest thing ever, of Jericho getting his acapella entrance. And then but then the Punk stuff happened later that week, and I feel like we completely forgot that in the same week Jericho got that big entrance. So
it killed everything else. It kind of like made everything else seem this big after CM Punk came out.
I agree. I fully agree that like CM Punk. But I will say that like watching the joy CM Punk seems to be having and how he's almost trying to spread it to everything else. It does feel infectious, and it is different because like you heard Punk talk about the fact that everything in his previous the previous part of his career was a fight, as he put it. He was always fighting for something. He was always on attack most to get what he wanted to see out of the business. And right now he's just in a mode of like, I just enjoy doing what I'm doing. And so it is infectious to see. But yeah, so show open with Matt Hardy versus Orange Cassidy. I honestly thought with all the best friends and HFO stuff that'd been going on, hey, Antox in the chat, how much did you miss? We're just getting started. Although, if you'd like to see video, again, join us at youtube.com/wrestlingwithwill, because I'm doing both audio and video. You're still welcome to call in, though. The call-ins work no matter where you're joining us. 909-581-4RBR. That's 909-581-4727. But anyway, Matt Hardy and Orange Cassidy. Yeah, so HFO and best friends have been kind of going at it for weeks. I figured this was something that was just going to make it to All Out. But I guess this was the time to pull the trigger on Matt Hardy and Orange Cassidy. I tweeted that I don't know what it is, and I think, if I may steal one of Joe Holbert's bits, the opening noise of Matt Hardy's theme song has kind of grown on me to the point of where I think I kind of love Matt Hardy's theme. And just like, like the because it has the little vault opening, and then it makes I can't even like describe it. It's like a right before it's that has like really grown on me in like a really obnoxious way. Like for what and who Matt Hardy is supposed to be. And like Matt isn't gonna give you because I recognize Matt Hardy 100% not for everybody. No. I get it. And so here's the thing. I've gone back and forth on Matt since he signed with AEW, because like initially I was not into Broken Matt. And I liked the Broken Universe. I liked it in Impact. I didn't hate it in WWE, but I wasn't a fan of it in AEW. And I think the reason I wasn't a fan of it in AEW was because AEW has, for the most part, avoided supernatural elements in their programming. And here comes Matt Hardy, who is kind of introducing that. And it felt out of place. Like that first show where he was teleporting, and then in Stadium Stampede, he did the morphing and all that. And I thought
that was, oh my God, I love that.
It was fun because I love Stadium Stampede, but I thought it's just out of place in a show that wants to take itself a little more seriously. And so I was actually really thrilled when Matt Hardy abandoned the broken character and went kind of just like old school Matt. And he did that. Yeah, he did that for a little bit, and then he went to Big Money Matt, and then started the HFO, which was like honestly like a weird turn, because it was like right after that last deletion with Sammy Guevara.
Yes.
And yeah, Antox in the chat, he said up until that point, the most supernatural thing about AEW was like the Dark Order, and that wasn't even really like supernatural. I think the most supernatural thing the Dark Order did was like that vignette where it was right after, what was it? John Silver and Alex Reynolds lost to John Moxley in like 2 seconds, and then they showed them back at their hotel, and they were watching their TV, and the Dark Order video played saying like, "You guys are losers. Come join the Dark Order." And like the fact that they had, and so I'll say that much, that was a little bit supernatural in the sense that obviously, how did that get to their TV? But I feel like that was the most we had seen. But yeah, as far as Hardy and Orange Cassidy was concerned, they decided to kind of take the comedic approach to this match, and they started out with the deletes versus the Orange Kicks. And I don't know, what did you think?
I loved it. I mean, I didn't think it would go as long as it went because it got to the point where everything just kind of like was mixed in together. But I love when they started like that because Orange Cassidy in reality is a comedic wrestler. So I would have expected this from him. And Matt Hardy, he can play comedy too. So I was very happy with the way to start it. And the match itself actually surprised the crap out of me. You know, taking away the fact that there was a bit of a injury.
With although
he's injury prone.
Yeah, well, I was gonna say, like, Matt won. This run has just been so snake bitten for him.
Yeah.
But I will say that I thought this was a much smarter match than I was expecting because of the fact that I wasn't sure what I was expecting. But I do know that Matt isn't quite as mobile as he was in days of yesteryear. But he was, as far as this match was concerned, I felt like the story of this match was just really smart and it got people into it. And I enjoyed the money spot in the beginning with Matt reaching his hands into his pocket, pulled out the money. And he goes all over the place. Yeah, and Orange Cassidy, he held on to a couple of pieces, or maybe it was just one, whatever. But then it was absolutely Orange working over Matt. I loved Orange's pocket swanton. I thought that was cool. I enjoyed that.
Daring these guys.
It's so, yeah. And then Matt getting busted open and seemingly having a broken nose, blood everywhere. Look, I feel bad for Matt in the sense that obviously you don't want to see that happen to anybody.
Wow.
That said, I think it added to the match. I thought that the look of angry Matt with the blood on his face, especially the way Orange Cassidy pinned him, I thought it added to it, and I thought it added to the anger that Matt showed through everything. I actually liked it, and so that was that match. And then we had so Chris Jericho makes his way down to address his loss to MJF. He is now 0-3 against MJF, and he makes his way to the ring with a little bit of a proposition, which was that he will retire from in-ring competition in AEW and simply stick to commentary if MJF will give him one more match at All Out and can beat him. And MJF makes his way out with the little bit of a reference back to WCW in the Goldberg feud, where Jericho had the Jericho, I think it was Jericho 4 Greenberg 0 shirt, and this time MJF had the MJF 3 Jerablow 0 shirt.
Yes, so
yeah, and MJF was good here. MJF said that he made Jericho tap out faster than someone listening to Fozzy. I thought that was a good line. MJF said he doesn't need to beat Jericho again at this stage because he's already beat him 3 times. Although in singles competition, it's only been twice, right? I guess he's referring to blood and guts, I'm guessing.
Yeah, I think the blood and guts, since he was the one who took him out, I guess.
Okay, but
he pinned them on the top.
But hold on. No, I would accept that.
Count.
2 things. One, and Carrie, I'll address that in a second because you're right. But 2 things. One, If that means MJF 3, that can't mean Jericho 0 because Jericho won Stadium Stampede.
Yes,
So,
right.
so
maybe it is. Did they have 3?
they only had 2 singles matches. That I'm certain of. I have no question that they only had 2 singles matches.
So MJF
Because
to pull from wherever he can.
they wrestled at Full Gear last year, and then they had the match last week in Houston. But there wasn't another singles match between Jericho and MJF. I don't think.
Can't remember.
Correct me if I'm wrong, and maybe all right. Now I have to at least cage match this because let's see MJF, and we are gonna look for.
He went up against him to get into the inner circle, so that was
Right, and that was the one at Full Gear last year.
Yeah.
But if I look up Jericho, MJF versus Chris Jericho only took place at Full Gear and last week on the 5th labor of Jericho. All right, that's what
superb.
Yes. I was I knew there wasn't another singles match between the two of them, but yeah, so they also so whatever. But, if only one counts, then the other has to count. But I get it. MJF is MJF, so it's not necessarily a thing. Because as Jason in the chat just pointed out, is a part of being a heel is lying and misremembering facts. Yes, because obviously MJF still calls himself undefeated, and he lost to Jon Moxley. But and that was the other thing that was weird last week was like I know MJF tends to be kind of held at bay, but the fact that they were like MJF has won his last 4 singles matches, and then they had pointed out that one of them was that Full Gear match, and it just is a testament to how little MJF has wrestled this year. Because MJF the fact that his last 4 matches, one of them does include a match from last year, and it's August. He really has not wrestled much at all this year. So I thought that was interesting. But yeah, so Kerry had pointed out that Jericho looked super bloodshot here. And the weird thing was I thought that kind of added to the segment because I thought that as Jericho made his way out and he looked the way he did, I thought, yeah, he looks like he's been on a bender, but it also looks like he's kind of suffering from the depression of losing to MJF. So like in that case, I thought it added to it. But he did look like somebody. Good night. He looks like somebody who hasn't been sleeping. He looked like somebody who's been out of it. So I thought it added to it.
Yeah, what he was saying, definitely.
What Josh says, it's kind of so talking about MJF, it's kind of a disservice to him because he's young and not that amazing in the ring. See, and I think that I don't know. I feel like MJF, for the most part, singles wise, has delivered his last few matches because he had the match with Sammy Guevara that I thought was really good. And then the Jericho matches have been good. And I feel like because his singles matches tend to deliver when he has them, kind of keeping him at bay is like almost creating an attraction in MJF, if that makes sense. I don't know.
It makes a little bit of sense. Makes you want to see him more because you don't get enough of him, but he's really good.
Yeah. Now, I will say this. I am not thrilled that Jericho is facing MJF again. In that this feud literally started the Wednesday after last year's All Out. So this goes officially 1 year as of All Out. As soon as All Out hits, this feud has been going on a year, like from the entire, because that was the week. It was right after All Out last year that MJF declared he wanted to join a faction, and that was where the whole Inner Circle stuff started. And then not Stadium Stampede, Dinner Debonair, Dinner Debonair hit, and all of that. And I just, I don't know. How do you I was kind of hoping that MJF versus Chris Jericho would have been over after that last match, and then maybe they do the Sammy Guevara rematch. But I don't know. What now?
I'm okay with this.
I'm okay. I'm curious.
Because I feel like this has been in the works since Jericho came to AEW. I believe he always wanted to work with MJF. I think his main goal was to put MJF over. And what better way to put this guy all the way over, the youngest talent, like one of the youngest talents in AEW, with their own faction, by letting them retire you. Like that's what I think that's happening.
If that's where it goes, I can see that. My gut feeling tells me Jericho's not going to lose. And especially, well, because so I think about two things Jericho said. One thing he said was that if he can't go at his maximum level any longer, then he wouldn't want to do this anymore. So I can see from that perspective, maybe stepping away. But on the other side of it, with all the new talent AEW is getting, there's not a chance I could see Jericho looking at all of that and going, I'm going to miss out on this. I'm willing to not work with these guys.
But I still think he'll still be working with them, but on like a management coach level. I mean,
I don't know. I honestly have no idea, but it's just like,
I just feel like if MJF doesn't win, what was the purpose of all the build-up?
Yeah, if he does, that's like the ultimate feather in MJF's cap. I think that if he does do it, then at that point, there is no stopping what MJF can become. And so, I don't know. I guess I'm two different places on it, but excited. I will be at All Out. Oh, speaking of All Out, though, I have to show you this. And if you're not watching via video, you're gonna miss out. So I'll give you everybody listening audio 10 seconds to jump over to youtube.com/wrestlingwithwill. But I posted these to Twitter, but you really can't appreciate them unless you're truly seeing them in action. So last night, my best friend Carolina we had a game night last night, and we played some video games, all of that. And she was like, "Hey, I bought you something. I saw it, and I knew I couldn't resist buying it for you. So here." And look, if you're going to be in Chicago, just recognize that I'm going to embarrass the ever living hell out of myself, because Carolina bought me these socks. These socks that they read pro wrestling. Why? Because RAR, and then have wrestlers. They're pro wrestling socks. I'm totally not only wearing these in Chicago for All Out, I'm going to wear shorts just to make sure that my pro wrestling socks are fully visible. I am so excited. I'm so excited for these socks.
Please take a picture with them on.
Yes.
I love those socks, by the way. Good job, Carolina. Good job. They're awesome.
Thank you, Carolina, for the socks. And they are totally going in my bag as I prep for All Out in just 7 days. And I leave in 7 days.
Excellent.
And I totally, Nick in the chat, would have worn New Day socks. Absolutely. And I say would wear New Day socks. That is definitely not something I am even remotely ashamed to admit.
No.
Back on the topic of All Elite Wrestling Dynamite. Then we had the tag title eliminator tournament, the Lucha Bros versus the Varsity Blondes. And I feel like mileage with this match will vary depending on who was taking this in, because a lot of people, I noticed a lot of feedback on the show was like, this show featured a lot of stars versus guys that people maybe wouldn't consider stars, or I saw people refer to the Varsity Blondes as jobbers, despite the fact that they've only lost 4 times this year.
Jobbers?
Yeah, I don't think so. But also, I watched Dark and Elevation, so I feel like I just have a really different perspective on who a lot of these guys, how guys are viewed. But the one thing I did do was I mentioned to you before the show. I don't think the RBR neighborhood knows this, but you're going to learn that there's a new person living in my house, that my brother-in-law now lives with us temporarily. Well, we don't know. Is there however long it takes until. But what was interesting was and if you see him walk by, he's staying in my guest room right there. He so he watched this with me. And this was somebody who had never really seen AEW before. So we could use the term lapsed fan, right? So if you're a lapsed fan, what I found interesting about this was, to him, he kind of just saw this as, the Lucha Bros and Varsity Blondes. To him, it's all the same, because they're both just like two acts that he had never seen before. And so he's watching this and he sees their promo beforehand, and it's like, okay, these guys are intense. Like, and they've got a cheerleader with them. Like, I could very well believe that these guys could beat the Lucha Bros. And then he sees the Lucha Bros and he's like, okay, cool. They're like, this match like made sense to him. And I thought about his perspective, and then I started thinking about the people who tuned in for CM Punk, who decided they're going to stick around. And I thought, to them, this could, like, to somebody who's maybe only watched Dynamite, the Varsity Blondes haven't really won much on Dynamite. So like I said, I feel like mileage kind of varied on this, but to me, I thought that this was a good showcase for, especially Brian Pillman Jr. I feel like Brian Pillman Jr. has been looking really good out there, really, in his last couple of outings, the one with Miro, and in this particular case, you could tell he's winning people over. Like, ultimately, you knew that the Lucha Bros were going to win this. It was just a matter of how.
That's who I was going for.
I felt like the something, I don't know what it was, but when they came back from break, Penta seemed a little off to me. But other than that, I enjoyed it, and Ray Phoenix is just ridiculous. I can't get over how impressed I continually am with Ray Phoenix. Yes. And after the Lucha Bros won, this was kind of the first time as an AEW viewer I looked up and went, I think they're going to do it. I think they're going to go all the way. I actually believe that the Lucha Bros are going to do all of it.
Oh my God.
And so I actually kind of see it. I can absolutely see them walking away with titles. And then, of course, the Bucks hit the ring, and I thought what was an awesome visual, it was when Jungle Boy and Ray Phoenix hit those stereo topes onto.
Yes.
And somebody said on Twitter that usually the thing about the stereo topes is that nobody ever seems to do it at the exact same time. It's always like one person's maybe a millisecond off. But for whatever reason, Jungle Boy and Ray Phoenix, exact same time. They were like,
it was beautiful.
Completely in symmetry with each other. It was good. I liked it. And then the next bout was Jamie Hayter versus Red Velvet. And love Jamie Hayter's music. That and I'm glad AEW posted it immediately. But I liked her entrance.
You've seen her wrestle before.
It felt like
this time.
I don't know what you're gonna do with Britt at this point.
I know. I have an idea.
Because the crowds are not gonna boo her. Like, they were even like kind of on the fence with Red Velvet, but then when Red Velvet got hit Britt Baker, they booed. Like, yes. People do not want to hate Britt Baker, despite the fact that she's still a heel.
No, they'll never boo her. I only see one person being able to take that belt from her and having it be legitimately accepted.
And can I guess?
Guessing?
Is it Thunder Rosa?
Of course it's Thunder Rosa.
Of course it is.
Of course it's Thunder. So Thunder and Chris Statlander are legitimately my favorite wrestlers ever. And I mean, let me rephrase that now.
Yeah, I was going to say today. Yeah, okay.
Today. I grew up on WWE. I had a big gap that I didn't watch it. when I was watching it, it was a certain wrestler who he's dead to me. And so The Rock, was the one who was my favorite wrestler of all time since then. But now it's definitely Chris Statlander and Thunder Rosa. And as far as tag teams, it's Santana and Ortiz. And so when you were saying that you'd see the Lucha Bros winning it, they're my second favorite tag, and I can see that, but I really want Santana and Ortiz to take it in Queens.
I know, right? Like, it's tough because I can't. I don't know.
I'll be okay. I'll be okay if the Lucha Bros wins, because like I said, they're my second favorite tag. But I've been rooting for Proud and Powerful since their bouts with Best Friends, and it's not happened yet. So I feel like this is their last chance to get the belts.
Yeah. I don't know. I like, the weird thing is because when we get to Rampage, we'll talk Lucha Bros. And so but yeah, as far as the Jamie Hayter,
yes.
So here's the thing. I actually liked the match. I
did too.
That said, I do have not be addressed, which was the standing moonsault from Red Velvet.
God, that poor
I have to tell you, that look you have right there, I wanted to crawl out of my skin and just leave the room. You ever watch, what's a show that made me super embarrassed to watch? Were you a fan of the Wonder Years?
I used to watch it. Yes, I used to watch it.
So that show used to make my skin crawl. And the reason was because and it wasn't written, right? Where Kevin Arnold will constantly find himself in these embarrassing situations. And when it would happen, I just wanted to, I don't know, I couldn't take it. I just wanted
to embarrassed for them.
Yeah, I felt embarrassed for him as a character. I would sit there and watch it, and as soon as the moment hit, and it was every single episode, I'm like, oh my God, Kevin, what are you doing? And I just wanted to die, right? That said, I felt like that for Red, because it was I felt like the match, it only had one other misstep before that, but I felt like it was going okay. And then when that happened, I thought, oh no. Only because I hate it when I don't know. I felt like her critics who feel like she's not there were gonna jump all over that. And I felt like she was having her best dives in this match. There was a lot of stuff I was feeling Red was on with, and then that hit, and I thought, oh, everybody.
Yeah, they're just gonna focus on that.
Yeah, they're gonna focus on that. Good recovery from Jamie, though. The credit to me was that Jamie didn't sell it and instead ran with it, and that ended up leading to the finish of the match. So I thought that was actually solid. And
so happy she didn't sell it.
Yes,
obviously it didn't happen. So
so no reason to fake it. Just go with it. And so then we had Chris Statlander make her way down, and I know it's a little soon, but I would like to see Chris take the belt. I know, and it's it's a little soon for that. I get it, but at the same time, if there's one thing AEW hasn't done yet, I don't know if they'll ever do it, because Tony seems to not feel the idea the way others do. But the one thing AEW has not done quite yet is do a belt trade-off. And because I feel look, as the RBR neighborhood knows, you may not be aware of this. As your favorites, as you mentioned, are currently Chris Statlander and Thunder Rosa. My current favorite is one Hikaru Shida. So I am mildly annoyed that she hasn't been on Dynamite since before Double or Nothing. That said, I do not want her 1 year record touched for a really long time. And so And so with that said, I feel like if Britt is to get a long run, I wouldn't mind it if it's broken up over time. If it's like, because I feel like it would be more to Britt's character to brag about being the first and only 2-time champion or the first and only 3-time champion or something along those lines. Where if she's going to be presiding over the division over the next 2 to 3 years, maybe you break it up a bit and maybe you have her lose to a Chris Statlander and win it back or something along those lines to where she can have that kind of run.
I'm sitting here like, that could work. I never thought of that. I had the belt like figured out until 2023. Like I know who's taking it from I know who's taking it from Thunder.
Right.
Like, I have Jade in there.
Yep.
So
and Jade's gonna get there eventually.
Yeah, I have it literally. Like I've said this before on my show. I'm crazy like this, but I have like it's like Baker to Thunder to Jade to Statlander. That's how I see it.
Yeah, I could see that too. To me, I'm just like Statlander and the Best Friends are kind of a hot act right now. I wouldn't mind capitalizing on it. But especially because this isn't her first title shot. Because I think AEW has very much been about like nobody seems to have won it on their first go round.
Agreed.
But at the same time, Stat faced Nyla Rose last year. Like she has. As a matter of fact, this is Statlander's third shot because she faced Riho last year as well.
Would I be upset?
Right.
If the Statlander one, I would not be upset.
Josh in the chat said mildly annoyed on this show is like furious on normal RBR. Okay. The reason I say mildly annoyed is because I was thinking about something Emi Sakura said, and I can't help but wonder if that's where things are heading. And that was Emi Sakura mentioned that one of the things she would like to see in AEW is a women's faction. And we haven't seen yet. And so, of course, she's back here in the States. She's been posting videos about kind of with Sheeta and her like shopping at like Costco and stuff and like her getting her life in America going. And so it's very clear that like she and Sheeta are close and tied. And she trained Hikaru Shida, right? So then I can't help but wonder if that may be what Sheeta's kept at bay for at the moment of like, do we introduce some kind of alliance with her and Emi Sakura when you reintroduce her to TV? So I'm at least like, let me see. And you know, she of course has a new look. She cut her hair. She got the new attire. So I'm like, maybe that's headed somewhere. And yeah, so I don't know though. That is the thing I'm like really interested in.
Though as a champ, the only thing I wish she would have had was promos.
Yes.
You should have let her cut them in Japanese.
Well, and so even she said that, you know, she never really felt comfortable on the mic. And that's why she was really thrilled that on that last Dynamite before Double or Nothing, they gave her the mic time. And that she wanted to ultimately do a promo in front of fans, and she got to. Yes. And then, so we had 2 more bits happen in this first hour. Alex Reynolds and John Silver walk away from the Dark Order. Oh my goodness.
I don't think that's from you.
I have 2 places that I wonder if this is going. 1, the end of the Dark Order.
No.
Or 2, there's only one person who can reunite them and get them back on track.
And who do you have?
Anna Jay.
Forgot about her.
Right. Right. Like she's been
number 99.
Yeah, and so she's been off TV for a little while. She's been injured, but she has been tweeting that she's on her way back.
You never know.
So I don't know. I could see. So I'm like, there's obviously dissension within the Dark Order, and I see it going one of 2 ways. Of like, either one, their missing member brings them back stronger, or we in the group. Either way, it's something different.
Or 3, Hangman. You don't think that he can come back and unite them? Because that's why they're bumping heads to begin with.
Yes, I could, but I also want Hangman to finish the story the way he said, which is that I have to do this on my own. If I'm going to get the title, I have to do it on my own. So I feel like, yes. Which, like, that's a pink thing I'm a little bit disappointed in. I had no intention of going to Full Gear. I like told my wife that Grand Slam is going to be my last wrestling trip for the year. And then, but I'm like, but I really want to see Hangman win the title. I don't know. So I've gone from 0% going to Full Gear this year to like 20. I don't see it hitting 100 because I want to do more stuff next year. But yeah, I don't know.
Double or nothing. That's where I plan to be next year.
Yeah. And then we had the CM Punk promo. CM Punk makes his way out, and he was, you could see the excitement in him. Like, it's just a weird, different energy from CM Punk. Like, if you go watch even his last WWE entrance and to literally the same music, and you put them side by side, and you just see, and he was a babyface at the time, so it's not like he didn't have any reason to like be embracing the fans, but you just watch his energy from the last time you saw him versus right now, and it's like
night and day.
He just somehow was 7 years younger rather than older than he was, because he just feels so energized. And yeah, he makes his way out, kind of the same entrance deal. But this time being interviewed by Tony Schiavone, he did the funny "I can't hear you," and the crowd chanting CM Punk. And this time he brought it back around to kind of addressing everything happening in AEW today. He said he wants to face guys like Brian Pillman Jr. He wants to face guys like Jungle Boy, and he mentioned Penta Ray Phoenix. But the one he wants to start with is Darby, because Darby is who he would have wanted to be when he was 15. It would have been my favorite wrestler when I was a teenager. And I thought I loved all of that. I loved everything about what Punk had to say there. And then he basically lays it out to sorry, my cell phone is vibrating because somebody's at my front door ringing my doorbell. Anyway, so yeah, and then and like I said on RBR, I feel like Punk's a little more clever than people are giving him credit for, because a lot of people were saying that, like, oh, he played that off well. I honestly think he played the fans into chanting yes to drop that hint, because the way he I watched the promo again almost 3 times, and the way he like poses the question of, can I still go? Do I still have it? You know, am I still the best in the world? And then he waits, and like, and then you see the yes chant start up, and then you see him kind of smirk, and I'm like, intentional, completely intentional.
Yes.
It was totally intentional that he got them to chant yes to drop that Daniel Bryan hit. And I loved it. Like, it got me out of my seat. It was the first that Bryan Danielson is coming to AEW, and I
you think we'll see him at All Out?
Yes, I do. And I've been theorizing on that for a little bit, and now that the rumor's out there that he is, like, I'm like, let's do this.
What do you think about the other people that have been like? I think there's the other 2 that have been rumored.
Yeah, I don't. I mean, now I'm feeling a little more confident about Cole. But and then as far as Bray is concerned, I don't know. But Bryan, the thing about the rumor to me, so when the rumor first came out that Bryan was going to be there at Grand Slam, I thought, really, Grand Slam? Barry says, William R. watches everything 3 times should become a standard nickname now. Yeah, that's the thing, is I do. Sometimes I'm like, okay, if there's a thing I really want to form like an opinion and some thoughts on, I will. I absolutely will.
So you have to study it.
Yeah. But as far as the Grand Slam rumors, I thought about the Grand Slam rumor, and I thought about the fact that Grand Slam is going to be a really unique setting. It's going to be something that wrestling hasn't really ever seen before. We've never seen wrestling in a tennis stadium like that. We've never seen it. I mean, that's going to be a really unique looking venue. It's going to be one of the coolest looking venues. And I thought about the fact that knowing who Daniel Bryan is and knowing how CM Punk was brought in, if I know anything about Bryan Danielson, my favorite wrestler ever.
Oh, wow.
I know that Bryan would want to work in front of that crowd. Bryan wouldn't necessarily, I don't see Bryan seeing a setting like that and going, I just want to cut a promo. Bryan seems like the kind of guy who wants to have a match in a setting like New York, in a setting like what Grand Slam is going to have. And so thinking about that, I had been trying to play in my head, like, how could you both debut Bryan at Grand Slam and let him have a match? And my thought was maybe you debut him on the Dynamite and then they're going to take Rampage after it, maybe have a match at Rampage. But I think it would make way more sense to have him do the debut at All Out, and then whatever match he's going to have first, you have that at Grand Slam. And so that's what I see. So Nick in the chat, as far as what I think Bryan's going to do, as far as what the rumors for Grand Slam are, I think for Grand Slam, that's where you have a match, because Bryan just seems like the type who's going to want to put on a show and do what he does best in front of that big of a crowd, not necessarily just cut a promo or anything. Because I don't know, because it's a little bit different, because like Bryan is a good promo, but that's not his specialty. His specialty are his matches. Whereas like Punk is a good wrestler, but his specialty is the promo. So the thing people wanted to see in that big crowd in Chicago was the promo. Yeah. But I think as far as Grand Slam is concerned, if that's Bryan's night, I would rather see him in a match that night. And there's so many places you could go. I see Omega versus Bryan in the chat. Only reason I wouldn't go there is because I don't know how you can get him a title shot that quickly. That, and I don't think he should beat Kenny. So, and I don't think he should be the one to lose. But I had an idea, and hear me out here.
Uh-oh.
So I've obviously given this way more thought than I probably would like to pretend I didn't.
But he's your favorite wrestler, so it makes sense.
I was thinking about it. I'm like, okay, who would be the ideal first opponent for Bryan Danielson? And I thought, you don't want and it should be somebody he should beat. And I was going up and down the AEW roster, and I'm like, you don't want to do Darby Allin because he'll have just lost to CM Punk. So let's scratch Darby Allin off the list for now. And then I thought, what about Jungle Boy? But again, Jungle Boy is like right there, and I don't know if I want him to lose right off the bat, right? And so there's guys like Hangman. I don't want to see him beat Hangman. And there's guys like Andrade is still too new. Pac, like I feel like Pac will have just Pac hasn't had a strong enough run recently to where he should be losing either. So again, went up and down the roster, and I thought about who do I enjoy seeing the most in the ring? Who has actually had some really solid matches that bring the best out of his opponents, and he could afford to lose? And the answer I came up with is going to surprise you, but I think you'll convince yourself on it. I think the first match for Daniel Bryan ideally should be Nick Jackson.
Huh.
Right.
Wow. That would work so well because Nick Jackson is a tag team person.
Exactly. So he loses nothing for losing a singles match.
He loses nothing, but getting over him is huge.
Right. And I think they could deliver in the ring. Nick Jackson always comes through in the singles matches. They could deliver in the ring. They could do something special. It'll be good. And on top of that, Nick Jackson can afford to lose to a Bryan Danielson. That's where I would go first. Nick Jackson.
Love it, Will. Wow. I was running the whole roster through my head. I'm like, no. Never thought.
I know, right?
That's excellent.
That's my answer. I say
perfect booking, y'all.
Bryan Danielson, Nick Jackson would be where I would go if I were to book Bryan Danielson's first match and I wanted to deliver and
make it happen. Make it happen.
Yes. I know, make it happen. Let's do this. Bryan Danielson. But anyway, so yeah, we're headed into Punk versus versus Darby Allin, All Out. And then we had the first trios tag. So we entered the second hour. The second hour is where things I think weren't really clicking. Where we had the Darby Allin, Eddie Kingston, and Jon Moxley taking on the Wingman match. This was pretty quick. But then Daniel Garcia hit the ring and attacked Darby Allin. FTR announces that they're back, and they played it up. So they started with the fact that Cash mentioned that Cash's arm, his hand is misfiring. Got some nerve damage, but the FTR is going to go in the ring, and they're going to go up against Santana and Ortiz one more time next. And
that one has me on pins and needles.
Burnus in the chat says, I think William Cornette off the most. Not true. Although it probably would. But honestly, I was just thinking about the fact that like Nick Jackson had that match with Rey Fenix, and it came through. And like when people talk about the Bucks, even people who dislike the Bucks, which I think even what's his name, Jim Cornette's co-host is always, I don't like the Bucks, but I think Nick Jackson is really talented. Like people like Nick. I like Nick. Since he turned heel, especially, he's been he cracks me up. I think his obnoxious antics are the best.
I love him.
And then
I do.
and then we had the Elite with Christian Cage, and
right.
Apparently, according to Gangrel, actually according to everybody, Gangrel was supposed to be involved in this, but then after SummerSlam they pulled him. But they also paid him for it, so that's good for that. Jon Moxley had announced that he's facing Satoshi Kojima at All Out, but he didn't get who he wanted, and so we're going to continue to build. I guess Jon Moxley's just going to be the New Japan guy going forward until he gets the match he's been after.
It seems that way.
And I mean, I think it's a cool way to continue to use him, to keep him as a top guy, but ultimately keep him away from the title picture. And so this is kind of a good way to continue Jon Moxley as an attraction wrestler, but he's just going to continue working with, I guess, other attraction guys out of the company.
Yep.
Factory versus Gun Club. A lot of people didn't want to see this match. It didn't go very long anyway. No. The only thing I was like slightly excited for in this match is that Colton Gunn is still like 24-0.
You're right.
yeah, Colton Gunn has not lost a match, and I don't know how they have kept this man undefeated, but Colton Gunn is still undefeated in AEW, 24-0. And the thing is, I like Austin Gunn a lot. I think Austin oozes charisma, but Austin Gunn, that man's 26-2. Colton Gunn, on the other hand, never lost.
No losses. Austin Gunn is my favorite of the Gun Club.
Oh yeah, no, I love Austin Gunn. I think he's he exudes a charisma that I think, if given a shot, I think he could actually really be something. But yeah, Colton Gunn still undefeated.
Go get Omega.
Get and then the funny thing is, then you look at his singles record and it's 0-0. Like he just Colton Gunn just happens to have been in all the right matches to be 24-0. But Colton Gunn never lost a match. Still the man. And the thing I was shocked by was I was like, this is where they end the streak because they're building up. This is where they're building up the match with QT and Paul White. So therefore, like this is finally the time for Colton to lose. And then Colton was the one who got the pin. So I'm like, okay, Tony's definitely aware of the fact that Colton has this little streak going.
It's not by mistake.
Yeah. So and then the main event was just in a really odd place. And so I think it had everybody mentally thinking that this would be the return of Cody. It was Brock Anderson and Malachi Black. It went 2.5 minutes.
Was it really
And
that long?
he beat him with a black mass, and that was it. And then Malachi went for the kick on Arn Anderson. Arn blocked the kick, and then got kicked in his junk, and then
Yam bags.
and then Malachi kicked kicked Arn Anderson, and then the Lee Johnson's music hit. I mentioned this on RBR, but Lee Johnson's music hits. No reaction whatsoever, because I don't even think, like, I think it was kind of on everybody here. I felt like the camera needed to focus on the ramp and wasn't. Because, and at least we should have seen like the Tron didn't even change. It was still the Dynamite logo. I feel like we should have seen like Lee Johnson's Tron hit, like something to indicate that an entrance was happening.
Right.
And
it was weird.
Like, if you didn't know Lee Johnson's music, you wouldn't have even known that something had changed. And then he makes his way out. There's kind of no reaction, and then we just go off the air. And so it was kind of a flat ending, to the point of where people on Cage Match rated this the lowest episode of Dynamite ever.
Wow, because of this main event?
I think I blame Cage Match for this, and luckily they fixed it because I reached out to Cage Match.
Oh, nice.
But if you look at like all the reviews of the show, you'll see a really common theme, which was that a lot of people were like, this was the 100th episode of Dynamite, and this was the episode you put out. And they were like, they didn't celebrate 100 episodes at all on all of this. And I reached out to Cage Match and was like, you guys have it misnumbered. This was the 99th episode of Dynamite. And I noticed that a lot of people are bringing the score of the show down. And I'm not saying that it was a show that deserved, like, you know, I maybe would have given it like a 6. It definitely doesn't deserve the 4 it currently has. And I thought, but a lot of people had expectations of the show because you guys have it numbered episode 100 when it's actually the 99th episode. And I know where the numbering came from. It's because of the do you remember last year they did that late night Dynamite special?
Yes.
The one that where Scorpio Sky faced Ben Carter,
Yes.
and Anna Jay faced Brandy.
That's right.
They counted that as an episode of Dynamite, and so therefore that throws the count off of that they had it at 100. But anybody in AEW, they because what's her name, Jess Palumbo of AEW posts an episode number every week, and her count was always 1 off of Cage Matches. But I feel like the users of Cage Match all saw this as a show that should have been special and dinged it for not being, when in reality, I don't think that should have been a factor. And Cage Match went through and like they wrote back to me and they're like, you know what, you're right. This technically shouldn't be considered the 100th episode of Dynamite. And they went back and like corrected all the episode numbers from last September.
Go ahead, Will. Getting things done.
So now officially that episode is now listed as 99. But if you look at all the reviews, they're all dinging it for not being a special episode for 100.
Oh, so because they made it seem like this was the ultimate special episode, it got rated more strictly, basically.
Yeah. Yeah. And I thought that I was like, that's not fair. Like I said, it wasn't. I wouldn't have gone with anything that low on it. Like I said, it wasn't my favorite episode, but I wouldn't have gone as low as I did.
You don't.
But anyway, yeah. So
it's ruined the whole entire show, you know.
Yep. But officially now, Cage Match has it correct. So, ow, fuck. And I have video of things like that. Like now, if I do something like hit my elbow on my desk, you can see it.
Now you can see it.
So, welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the new era of wrestling with weekends. And so we'll touch on Rampage, which took place immediately after. in which we saw 3 matches. We saw the Lucha Bros take on Jurassic Express in the tag title eliminator tournament final match. And a little fun fact about this match. I mentioned this on Twitter, but the original tag team title tournament, in which that was originally won by SCU to determine the original first ever AEW tag team champions, had a match that was scheduled for the first round, and it was the Lucha Bros versus Jurassic Express. Except Luchasaurus got injured the night that match was supposed to take place, and he was replaced by Marco Stunt. And that was supposed to take place on the 3rd episode of Dynamite from Philadelphia. And I remember that because Anthony Scatz was there.
Wow, your memory is intense.
And so what was interesting was this was the 3rd episode of Rampage, and somehow we've come back full circle that Jurassic Express and the Lucha Bros got to face each other this time in the opening round of the tournament, and this time was again won by the Lucha Bros.
Yes.
And this was an excellent match. I had a lot of fun with this. And Giannis was at ringside, by the way. And I was a little bit like, because I wondered when they were heading into Milwaukee, I thought it would be cool if they could get the Bucks involved, because it's TNT, which is involved with the NBA, and it's Milwaukee, who just won the NBA championship. But I recognize that like WWE has more ties with the sporting with sports like that, so I didn't think it was going to happen. And then all those videos were posted on social media, and I thought, oh, why didn't you do that on Dynamite? And then I realized, oh, because Rampage is kind of the show that for right now they're really trying to hammer in as a flagship. And like, you want to see the big top matches, you're going to see those on Rampage, at least for now. I think that as time goes on, they'll probably balance out. But so where we got Giannis was actually on Rampage. And he was just having fun at ringside. You could tell he was just like super into it.
I would hate to sit behind him.
Yeah, I know. He's so big.
He would stand up and that's it. That's all you see on camera.
And yeah, he was just having fun at ringside though. But I thought this match was a blast. I thought that just everything about it, I felt like they were just firing the way they should. And I don't know. I actually love. I could have gone with either one. Like last week, I kind of convinced myself that Jurassic Express would win it all, because they had come so close before. But I realized that I guess the true AEW trilogy is Lucha Bros. They faced the Young Bucks in that first match at Double or Nothing and lost. Then they had the ladder match at All Out and won. So now the third match, the cage match, it's a rubber match between them. Who could it be?
I think there's a 50% chance. If I want Santana and Ortiz, it's possible that they can take it.
I honestly could see the Lucha Bros doing it. Unless they want to further the Andrade story. The story, of course, that that Chavo said you two will never become champions as long as you're with Pac. And like, if they want to make that true, then I could see the Bucks retaining one more time. But also, why not? I say just put the belts on the Lucha Bros.
Right? They're such great. I mean, you never get disappointed when they're in the ring.
No, I don't. I especially Ray Phoenix. I am such a Ray Phoenix guy. And
flyers. I love high flyers.
I have so much fun watching Ray Phoenix that, like, I don't know. I'm good. I feel like we could.
I mean, didn't they take the AAA championship from the Young Bucks?
Yeah, in the ladder match. So that's yeah.
So
that's where I feel like as far as AEW is concerned, obviously they face each other a million times more. But AEW, they're 1-1, and now we're back to Lucha Bros versus. And I like how we've had like variations of the match, but nothing to get us fully there. Like, and I hate that my camera just went out of focus. There it goes. But because we had Pac and Ray Phoenix face the Young Bucks just a couple months ago, and that was really good too.
That was good.
But the Pac and Ray Phoenix won. Or no, sorry, the Young Bucks won. And then we had Penta and Eddie Kingston face the Young Bucks. They did win to become number one contenders and then lost the actual title match.
Right.
But as far as the true team is concerned, Ray Phoenix and Penta El Cero Miedo, they have not actually gotten in there with the Young Bucks in 2 years. And so I'm looking forward to that.
Match 2?
Yes. I know. And I love, and I like AEW's approach to steel cages, in that they've only gotten to do it once with Cody and Wardlow, but I like the way that they treated the cage. I like that it truly was a, like there's no door. And I feel like that's an important distinction, because the idea of this should be a structure designed to keep people out. And so the escape rule is also not a factor in AEW. They don't do the escape rule because that really that's a WWE concept anyway. And it kind of defeats the idea of this is a match so intense that it needs to be locked within this structure. So yes. I like the way that they approach cage matches, and I am very curious to see, especially with the idea being that the Young Bucks have won via so much interference, and now here's a structure designed to keep people out. I don't know what they do, but I'm excited for it.
I know we're going to see people jumping off the top. I'm pretty sure you're going to see a Ray Phoenix and a Nick Jackson pulling jumps off the top.
That would be sick. I want to see it. Like, I honestly I'm excited that this is happening and I get to see it in person. And
yeah, I'm so jealous.
I have seen Hell in a Cell in person, but otherwise just like a straight up steel cage match. Have I ever seen one in person? And I think the answer is no. So this is cool. Out of having gone, this will All Out will be my 38th show in my entire life, and I don't think I've seen a steel cage match. So
yes.
I get to bring that off the list.
That's excellent.
And then we also on Rampage had what did you think of the Bunny versus Ty Conti?
Okay. I think my face said it all. So I really thought Ty was going to win.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm not surprised that the Bunny won under the circumstances that she did by cheating. I'm upset about it, actually. I mean, I really did think that Ty should have been the one moving over. I didn't ever think that AEW would put Bunny over.
Well, hear me out here. My brain is going the same place it went last time. So let's think about this. We have legitimate best friends, because like they had their vlog for a little while of Penelope Ford and Allie, right? They're super close, and their friendship ended up, I thought putting them together on screen is actually a good idea, especially if you don't have Kip Sabian anymore for right now.
Right.
I think these two are actually, especially because they are real life best friends, I think that is a good alliance. However, now Ty's outnumbered 2-1. And geez, doesn't she have a best friend on her way back?
Yes!
This could lead to the return of, because I'm pretty sure that Ty Conti and Anna Jay also best friends. Yes. So, like, again, bringing Anna Jay back into the fold, like, fixes so much. So
it does fix a lot. Do it. Do it, people.
So I actually do think that's where that's heading. That with her being outnumbered with them, she's going to have to enlist the help of her best friend, Anna Jay. And the thing I like about that is, one of the big AEW complaints is that there aren't enough women's angles outside of the title picture. And the fact that this essentially is a women's angle that doesn't consist of anybody even remotely near the title picture, I think is exactly what people have been asking for out of AEW. And so I'm good with that. And I actually do want to see it. So in this sense, I was like, okay, I get why Bunny won to establish this alliance. And now how does Ty combat this? She'd have to find her alliance.
That's true.
So I was good with it.
Maybe this opens up women tag teams.
Yeah, and then that's the other thing. We have another one. Because we kind of have that happening almost across the board, because like Big Swole's been teaming with Oh, right now she's teaming with
Isn't it Jamie Hart? I mean,
yeah.
that's
And
yeah.
Julia
Hart.
Julia.
I'm not a big fan of the Varsity Blondes theme.
Really?
I like them. I'm not a big fan of Julia Hart. She has to show me some more. But I do like Brian Pillman Jr. and Griff Garrison together, and I like their wrestling style. They're great in the ring, but I don't like the Varsity Blondes gimmick.
I feel like I wasn't a fan until Julia Hart. And it's not that Julia Hart really does much for me as a performer, but she's also 19, so there's plenty of time. But at the same, like it weirds me out to even think about the idea that she was in high school when Dynamite started.
I know, right? Like, she still wears a bow in her, like she has a big bow in her.
Mm-hmm.
I don't relate to their gimmick at all.
Yeah, it's either, but it is a gimmick that I recognize, right? Like, as far as like they look like dudes I remember in high school. But the one thing guys like that would have had in high school was a cheerleader with them. So when the Varsity Blondes first started, the gimmick wasn't clicking for me until Julia Hart showed up, and I thought that was like the missing piece to make it all work. And I actually do like their theme song. I think it is a really good Guns N' Roses knockoff. And it like really does sound like Welcome to the Jungle. And I feel like the act isn't something I relate to, but it is something I recognize. And that is where it clicks for me. And then in the main event, it was Christian Cage and Frankie Kazarian versus Kenny and Brandon Cutler. And this was basically a comedy affair. It was basically just to beat up on Brandon Cutler for 8 minutes. Kenny got his stuff in, but otherwise, or some of his stuff anyway. But it was really just to embarrass Brandon Cutler and give Christian and Frankie Kazarian a win.
Poor Cutler.
and that was Rampage.
It was fun.
What was that?
It was fun for me. Like I enjoyed it.
Yeah, no, I thought it was a fun main event. For what it was supposed to be. I think that I recognize that there were people who wanted to see. There's like the idea of Kenny in the ring with Frankie Kazarian and Christian should be more, but this was obviously designed to be Kenny trying to escape the two of them and feeding Brandon Cutler to them. And then Christian and Frankie Kazarian got to stand tall. Really, this match was about the opener. Or the show was about the opener.
Yes.
And yeah, so and Josh is saying in the chat that I think he meant Rampage. Rampage feels like Heat pre-SmackDown to me, where stuff happens, but it's not too important, and it's just fun to watch when you want to watch wrestling on a weekend. Not only do I agree with that, I'm pretty sure that's what Tony Khan said that Rampage was going to be when people were comparing it to Thunder initially, and were like, ooh, Thunder kind of hurt WWE, and he said, well, what about Heat though? Because he was like, I'm more so thinking Heat before SmackDown came along, which because Heat did used to have back in '98, it had like important angles, like remember episodes that had Triple H and The Rock on them, and like Austin had an episode where he just ran through everybody, and it still featured the important guys, it still featured important things. They did King of the Ring qualifier stuff like that on Heat, but ultimately it wasn't the flagship. And I feel like that's what Rampage is probably aiming to be, which I think is a difficult thing to sell on its own, because they do have a couple of solo Rampage tapings coming up, right? They've got next week is solo Rampage. And then I think it's a dual taping all the way up until October. They've got they're doing a solo episode of Rampage in October in Miami, I think it is. So yeah. And Carrie also mentioned in the chat that Heat used to be the pre-show before pay-per-views. It did. I actually used to love that. I used to love when we'd see like an angle or a promo almost in the ring between competitors and like whatever that night's world title match was. So I used to love that stuff. And then I guess things to touch on from SmackDown. I know you didn't watch SmackDown.
I did.
And I caught a lot of it, as I mentioned with the socks. that Carolina came over and we had a game night last night, and she introduced me to Okami, which I had never played before, and because it's her all-time favorite game, and I have to say, not bad. And this is coming from somebody who's like only okay on Zelda games, but the SmackDown was. I feel bad for everybody who got bait and switched on SmackDown. And I recognize that that's probably a lot of people because I was paying attention to the ticket sales from WrestleTix, and this particular episode of SmackDown wasn't selling really hot at all. And because it was the first show without John Cena advertised. But after SummerSlam, the sales went up a lot. They didn't open the arena up full. I believe only the lower bowl was open. But the numbers went up a lot. And I think it was, and the commercials made it sound like they were going to follow up on the Brock Lesnar stuff. And I think a lot of people were expecting Brock Lesnar at this episode of SmackDown. And I think Becky Lynch played a factor in that too, though. I think Becky Lynch was obviously a ticket driver as well. But I think there were a lot of people who were expecting Brock. And the whole show from beginning to end was focused on the idea that Brock Lesnar was going to be there. And I only saw the segments involving Becky and the Bloodline. And because I wanted to see how they were going to follow up on whether or not Becky's a heel yet. It still feels very tweenerish. Doesn't feel entirely like it'll probably start to lean toward being a heel because she talked about how much she missed the fans and all of that. But then she talked about how she's not sorry for anything, and that she took advantage of a situation, and that's who she is, and that's what she's gonna do. And the fans liked it, so I wasn't as down on where they're heading with Bianca as I was maybe out of SummerSlam, though I still don't feel like you should ever pin a babyface champion in seconds for their title without it being some kind of flash win. I compared it to I think one of the best examples of turning somebody by screwing a popular babyface out of their title was 12 years ago with Jeff Hardy versus CM Punk at Extreme Rules, where CM Punk had cashed in his Money in the Bank. And what I kind of like, what worked about that was the way Punk had come in after Jeff Hardy had just lost or had just won his world title, hit him with the go to sleep. Jeff kicked out after the pin victory, and Punk hit him one more time, 1, 2, 3, and that cemented Punk's heel turn and still made Jeff look valiant in that he still tried. And I feel like one more move would have helped Bianca, but the way Bianca was just sucker punched and hit with that Uranagi pin 1, 2, 3, I thought, no. At least if you were going to do that, I would have at least done the sucker punch, the Uranagi 1, 2 kick out, and then pick her up and hit her with one more move, 1, 2, 3, and at least then she would have looked a little more valiant. But ultimately, Becky was taking advantage of a situation. That's what I would have done anyway. But Bianca's number one contender again, so we're headed back there. And I was just asking last week what happened to Finn Balor because he was just gone. He had that brawl 2 weeks ago with Roman, or 3 weeks ago, and then hasn't been seen. They called out Brock Lesnar, and instead they got Finn Balor. And next week we're getting Universal title Finn Balor versus Roman Reigns. But we still didn't quite get a follow-up on Brock. I honestly don't think we will, because I think that match is happening in Saudi Arabia in October. So who knows? But in the meantime, that was the weekend of wrestling. And that was, and so I don't know. I still have fun watching, and even to me, the worst episodes of Dynamite are still fun. And I'm still not at a point of like, I don't know. It's going to be a long time probably. You'd have to burn me for weeks on end before I look at a show and go, or months on end, because I recognize, especially longtime RBR listeners, people who know that, who have been with us for the last 16 years, and know that it took a lot to finally burn me, for me to not be having fun watching wrestling, for me to finally give up on something. So for as much fun as I've been having with AEW and with Dynamite and now Rampage, it's going to be a long time before, or at least it would take a lot to burn me. And at this point, I'm still like, I look at the All Out card and I'm excited for a lot on that card. One of the things I forgot to mention from Rampage was that we got our answer. We are going to see Miro taking on Eddie Kingston.
Yes, for the TNT belt. Yes, and we get Casino Battle Royale for the women buy-in.
Yes, I'm curious who else is in that, because it's going to be 21. But like at the moment, they've already filled up just half of it, but they've put in most of the women's roster. Like I could see Riho being announced, and
Yuka probably.
Maybe, I don't know, just because Yuka.
Is she in Japan again?
Yeah, because she did go back to Japan, and I know that they require a 2-week quarantine to travel.
Okay, so maybe not.
I think Ruby is definitely going to be the Joker, but also like,
you think they're going to put Kira in there?
I could see that. I could absolutely see the only Hogan we acknowledge. But yeah, I could see Kiera in there. There's a number of people I could see that making it into that match, but it's gonna be good. Yeah, and I'll get to see it in person, which is just fun. I'm so excited. One more week.
I'm excited for you.
Thank you.
You're gonna have a great time.
Yeah. What's the next show you're planning to attend?
I'm gonna try to get to a Mission Pro show before the year is over, but I am going to be at New Jersey's AEW show on September 15th.
Oh, yay!
My first AEW show, supposed to happen March 2020.
Yes, it was. That was going to be blood and guts.
Yeah, it was going to be. Exactly. Bring it down, Maddy. Bring it down. Every time I think about that, it's just, but yes, I'm really, 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 really excited to finally see them live. So
it is crazy that show was originally supposed to be the largest crowd AEW was going to do.
Yeah.
And how that show got delayed. And now and now we've got the Queens, but also like Chicago just topped it.
Yeah, right.
So like, it's crazy how many other shows they've put on that are all of a sudden like bigger shows. And now they're supposed to be, I guess, in December hitting Long Island as well. So that's exciting.
I'm not too far.
Yeah, I was gonna say, like, that seems like that wouldn't be too big a trek for you.
No, not at all.
It's gonna be interesting to see how the market responds, because WWE is in the exact same arena the week before. So I'm also interested in seeing how that does, and how, like, what the comparison between the crowds is, because it's going to be the same venue shot by two different approaches. But yeah, and as Carrie in the chat says, take your kids. I think I am. They've really been looking forward to it. They've been wanting to paint their faces, and like my daughter is like, she wants to paint her face like Thunder Rosa, and they want to be in it All Out, and I don't think they've ever been to a pay-per-view. They've been to various TV tapings of everything. They've both been to Dynamite. They've both been to Raws and SmackDowns and house shows and all of that jazz, but I've never taken them to a pay-per-view. And
just
I guess
keep it on. That's all.
It just keeps the mask on, I think, is
have your hand sanitizer and you'll be fine.
Yeah. All right. I think they're gonna go. I think you will be seeing me with Veda and Billy, and then also Theron Reynolds. He will also be there with me as well. So if you happen to be in Chicago, I guess let me know. Hit me up on Twitter. If you're looking visually, my Twitter account is right there. Hold on, there, right there, and you can see Maddy has hers as well, which is over there. Yes, hey.
I love it.
But hey, Maddy, thank you for doing this. Thank you for being here. I know I owe you one. And what am I supposed to be doing? It's late September.
You will be on my show. I have to look at my calendar. You will be on my show. Yes, very late September. It's going to be September 30th.
September 30th. That's right. It's on my calendar, but I'm also not anywhere to look at my calendar. So
September 30th.
Yes. So thank you for being a part of Wrestling with Weekends. And thank you for everybody who watched visually. I even tried to troll with a Mariah Carey shirt, but it didn't show.
Love it.
Yes. Because my camera's just barely cut off. But I'm going to be doing more of this next weekend. But now that I think about it, yes. Okay. So next weekend is going to be my All Out preview show. We're going to be talking the All Out card and talking with folks that are also going to be in Chicago for the weekend. So it's going to be a little bit of a just an open forum of people who are going to be there. So again, I just want to say thank you to Maddy.
Thank you, Will, for having
me. By the
Thank
way, go ahead, plug. Let everybody know where they can.
Oh, yeah. Well, you can follow me on Instagram and Twitter at Top Rope Squishy. My YouTube channel is also called Top Rope Squishy, and I have shows that drop on Monday, Tuesday, and my live shows on Thursday nights. And check out the merch. Check out the merch.
Definitely check out the merch. And of course, come back for the Core RBR 909. I'm giving out a phone number. I meant the timing. That's going to be at 10 p.m. Eastern, 7 p.m. Pacific. That is at mixler.com/fanoff. Eventually, the goal is, and hey, everybody listening, we're going to make this happen. I want to convince, I've been trying to push RBR for a while now to add a video element to the Core RBR permanently. The only person that is against it is Paul Griffin. Paul is very highly against simply turning on his webcam during RBR. And if you can bully and pressure him into doing so, then we have kind of an entirely new element added to RBR Weekly Wrestling Talk. Like, I convinced him to do it for that anniversary episode, and I was hoping that was enough to be like, all right, guys, we're doing this like every week. And then Paul's like, yeah, no, not doing that. So definitely everybody bully Paul Griffin. Like, literally just go tag Unprofessional right now and tell him we want video RBR, turn your webcam on, Paul. And I bet we'll get it. But hey, folks, it's time to close out. And it's time for me to say, oh, and Carrie, who is the new host of RBR? I will tell you that we do know who it is. We haven't announced it yet, but this person has accepted the position as a new member of the Fatal Four, and that you'll know very, very soon. Woo! So until then, folks, it is now that time for me to say that is it for this edition of Wrestling with Weekends. Thanks for joining me. For Maddy Anderson, I am William R. Washington. I want you all to have a wonderful day, and I'll see you next time, and enjoy. Peace.
I walks up in the club, and the ladies looking lovely. Tried to show some love, but but the haters tried to mug me. Walk up to the bar, and I tried to get my drink on. Left on my feet. If you wanna get banged on, pump your brakes, make them shake it. They can't take it. Pump your brakes, make them shake it. They can't take it.
This has been a production of fanoff.com.
And that's perfect.